an avenue of invasion into the bleeding heart that dies. Zizek likes this nickname of Putin, Dva Putin, to Putin, Dva Putin. It's almost like Cockney rhyming slang. Dva Putin, Rasputin. So the Rasputitia, or the Rasputitia, how is that said, is a word for a kind of muddy season whereby different homologous meanings can arise. It's like a path divergent in the woods, which one can't see because it's obscured by the mud or the ice or the bad weather. But also it can mean various other things connected to the same image of the muddy path. And it's connected to the name Rasputin, who first saw difficulties in Rus, let's say. And I believe that the interpretation of this word, the Dva Putin, the to Putin, Rasputin, is simply that Putin is the one who reveals the what will befall the Russians. So in other words, there is the auf Deutsch Schicksal. So Nietzsche still believes in Schicksal and in a destiny, but nonetheless he's nihilist. That, I think, is one of the big insights you see in a student of Heidegger who's lesser known, who's written a play on a hypothetical meeting of Plato and Nija, which shows the connection of Plato and Nija. There's something there that still moves on the same plane. So now let's look at a seemingly unrelated tangent, which is Terence McKenna has the so I mean, if you think about it this way, is have somebody like Sam Harris, who's basically teaches scientism, his basic ideological position is scientism, but then within scientism he's willing to become a psychonaut or somebody who experiments with LSD and similar researches. So, but we could say it's clear Terence McKenna is the same without being the scientism, without the ideology. For him, it's direct. But what does direct mean? What it means is that for him, he thinks that what German idealism would call, in fact, not German idealism, but it's simply what in Kant would be the synthetic a priori, a list of synthetic a priorities, space-time, etc., as no, it would be a new category. Okay, so you have this synthetic a priorities, that which you can't, according to Kant, you can't quite conceive as something without space or time, although he concedes that it may be that some people can conceive of things without a causal order, so therefore without time. But nonetheless, he thinks he needs space. It probably follows the other way with space for people who think that through. But in any case, those seem to Kant the most, and I think still in our own Dasein, that's a very mysterious word, in our own Dasein, it seems that way. In our own Dasein could mean sort of within a few generations. It could mean in a certain geographic territory. It could mean in the global discussion as it now exists, because it's the disappearance of distance because of this so-called internet media that Terence McKenna is saying could be on the edge of the omega point. But what he means is something like like the categories Nietzsche was dealing with, like the true, the good, and the beautiful, or maybe the whole, the harmonious, and some other categories of those kinds. So far as we can really sense and access these kind of different so-called, in the Deleuze-Guattari version, they're just called concepts, which seems obviously to be inadequate. I'm not saying they're not aware of the other ways of thinking about it, but that's just the way they present it in that book on, I forget, it's called The End of Philosophy or something like that. We can see that McKenna is saying there can genuinely come into being things that are similar to this but different, such as, so for instance, so-called, let's say, somebody that I consider sort of a paleo-conservative and somewhat in the direction of Tucker Carlson, but also in the direction of Samuel T. Francis and more the thinking side of things. Paleo-conservative has understood this side of the argument to some extent, and so there's something in this that goes outside of the political sphere, simply into a consideration which can be grasped at a more hermeneutic or direct level.